Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something right now. Turning 70 is not a finish line, it's a launch pad. It's not the twilight of your life, it's the golden hour. And if you're still here, you're still breathing, still dreaming, then you've still got purpose. But purpose can't grow in a cluttered garden. Some things have to go. So today, I'm going to share 7 things you must throw away after 70. At a certain point in life, you realize that waiting for applause isn't just unproductive, it's unnecessary. By the time you reach 70, you've seen enough, felt enough, lived enough to know that people's approval is one of the most overrated currencies on this planet. And yet, many still walk around like they need a permission slip to be great. Like they need someone else to co-sign their potential, their purpose, or their next move. But let's make one thing clear, you don't need permission to be great. Greatness doesn't begin when others recognize it. It begins the moment you decide it matters more than their opinions. That's the shift, that's the unlock. You've lived through generations of shifting values, changing norms, trends that come and go. You've seen people worship heroes and tear them down the next day. So why would you build your life, your confidence, your calling on something as unstable as someone else's approval? Too many people, even late in life, are still trying to prove something to somebody. Maybe it's a parent who never said, "I'm proud of you." Maybe it's society that told them their time has passed. Maybe it's a crowd that cheered for them once and they're afraid of silence now. But if you're always looking for a cheer section before you act, you'll keep missing opportunities that were tailor-made for you, because here's the truth. Most people are too distracted with their own lives to fully understand yours. They don't see the quiet battles you've fought. They don't know the silent victories you've claimed. So why let their opinion define the worth of your journey? The need for approval will rob you. It will rob you of boldness. It will rob you of creativity. It will make you edit yourself to fit into rooms you were born to transform. And when you reach 70, you should be living in full expression, not silent hesitation. You've earned the right to move confidently, to speak boldly, to lead without apologizing for your light. There's power in being unapologetically you, not the filtered version, not the agreeable version, not the quiet, easy-did, I-just version that makes everyone else comfortable, the real you, the one who knows what they know, who's walked through fire and didn't come out smelling like smoke. That version of you doesn't ask for permission. That version of you understands that greatness isn't always loud, but it is always consistent. It shows up whether people clap or not. Some people will applaud when you win, others will criticize, and many won't even notice. That's life, but if your purpose depends on applause, it's not rooted deep enough. When you stop needing permission, you start creating from a place of power. You start speaking from a place of truth. You start moving with a kind of clarity that makes people take notice, not because you begged them to, but because you were undeniable. You are not in the business of approval. You are in the business of impact. If they like it, good. If they don't, that's fine too. You've got work to do, purpose to walk in, legacy to build, and none of that needs a permission slip. Regret is a thief. It sneaks in quietly, dressed as reflection, and before you know it, it's emptied your spirit of peace and filled it with sorrow over things you can't change. And the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. After 70 years of living, of loving, of making choices both right and wrong, it's time to let it go. Not because the past didn't matter, but because the future still does. Regret will try to convince you that the past is more important than the present. That the mistakes you made define your worth, that the chances you missed were your only ones, but that is a lie. Life is not a closed book because of a few chapters you didn't like. Regret has a way of playing highlight reels of your worst moments while muting the sound of your victories. It distorts reality. It whispers that your best days are behind you, but if you're still here, that can't possibly be true. You see, what regret doesn't want you to know is that the present holds power. The present is where change lives. It's where healing begins. It's where peace takes root. The past cannot be edited. The ink is dry, but the story isn't over. Every new day is another page, and regret doesn't get to hold the pen. Only you do. Letting go of regret doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you stop letting it punish you. You take the lesson, but you release the pain. You acknowledge the moment, but you don't let it trap you in emotional debt. Because regret will have you paying for a past mistake with present joy, and that's not a fair exchange. Think about the time you've spent revisiting choices you can't undo. Think about the energy poured into wishing you had done something different. Now imagine what would happen if that same energy was redirected into creating something meaningful today. What if, instead of replaying old pain, you started rewriting the narrative? What if you told yourself, yes, I made that choice, but look how much wiser I am now? That shift doesn't erase the past, but it reclaims your power in the present. Your wisdom is deeper. Your heart, though it may carry some scars, beats with a rhythm that younger souls haven't earned yet. And it deserves to beat freely, not bound by chains of regret. Because when you let go of regret, you make space, space for joy, space for peace. Space for spontaneous moments that remind you that life is still worth showing up for fully. Some people spend their whole lives looking backward. They miss what's in front of them because they're too busy trying to fix what can't be fixed. But you don't have to be one of them. You've seen enough to know that no one gets it all right. You've done enough to understand that mistakes are part of the process. And most importantly, you've lived long enough to know that healing is a choice you can make, even late in the game. You are not your failures. You are not your missed chances. You are not your worst day. You are someone who endured, who learned, who grew, and who still has time to make beautiful, bold decisions with the life that remains. Regret tries to keep you looking down. But there's still something ahead of you worth lifting your head for, something good, something new, something that can only be found when you decide that regret doesn't get to ride with you anymore. The idea that it's ever too late is one of the most dangerous lies society tells us, and too many people believe it, especially once they cross a certain age. Somewhere along the way, we were fed the notion that our greatest contributions have an expiration date, that there's a cutoff point for dreaming, building, becoming, but that's not truth. That's fear disguised as wisdom. If you're 70 or older, hear this clearly. Your age is not a limitation, it's leverage. It's not something to hide or apologize for. It's something to use. Experience is your advantage. Perspective is your superpower. You've lived through things younger generations haven't even imagined. You've watched the world change again and again, and you're still standing. That means you carry a resilience that can't be taught in classrooms or learned through books. You've gained wisdom not from theories, but from surviving storms, navigating setbacks, and celebrating victories that took time to manifest. That wisdom is valuable. That wisdom can shape legacies, not just for yourself, but for those coming after you. Yet so many people at 70 start shrinking their vision. They start thinking small. They convince themselves that their season for action has passed, but purpose doesn't retire. Calling doesn't come with an expiration date. The fact that you're alive means that something inside you is still needed in this world. There is still an idea that only you can bring, still a story that only you can tell, still a person you haven't met who's waiting for what you have to offer. Age brings clarity. It strips away the unnecessary. You no longer have time for foolishness, for distractions, or for shallow pursuits. That focus is a gift. You can move with more intention now than ever before. You've learned what matters and what doesn't. You know how to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what fulfills you. That kind of discernment is rare and powerful. Too often, older adults buy into the myth that dreams are for the young, that building something new is reserved for people with more years ahead. But legacy isn't about how many years you have left. It's about how much life you put into the years you do have. It's about impact, not age. Some people never do anything significant because they're always waiting for the perfect moment, but you've lived long enough to know the perfect moment doesn't exist, so why not start now? You're not behind. You're not late, you're not finished, you are equipped, you are seasoned, and you are more ready now than you've ever been. Think about how many people need your insight, your mentorship, your leadership. Think about the younger ones coming up behind you, desperate for guidance, desperate for someone to show them what strength, grace, and longevity really look like. That could be you, but only if you stop hiding your age and start owning your power. The truth is, age amplifies everything. If you were bold before, you can be bolder now. If you were wise before, you are even wiser now. If you had dreams before, they can become visions with strategy now. This is not your decline, it's your prime. The years you've lived aren't holding you back, they're launching you forward. If you shift your mindset from limitation to leverage, you'll start to see everything differently. Your age becomes your edge, your story becomes your strength. Your life, even now, becomes a platform for something greater. Peace becomes priceless. It's no longer something you're willing to trade for the comfort of others, the illusion of harmony, or the weight of toxic connections. When you've lived long enough, you start to realize that not every relationship deserves a lifelong lease. Some people were only meant for a season, a moment, a lesson, and yet many are still holding on to those people long after their expiration date. But now is the time to let them go, because you cannot protect your peace and hold on to poison at the same time. There are people in your life who drain your spirit every time they speak. People who constantly complain, criticize, manipulate, or take more than they ever give. You've excused them, tolerated them, explained their behavior for years, maybe even decades. But now is the moment to reclaim your energy. Now is the moment to say, that's enough. You see, toxic people don't always look dangerous. Sometimes they come wrapped in smiles and good intentions. Sometimes they share your last name. Sometimes they've known you for years, and that history makes it harder to walk away. But history alone isn't a good enough reason to keep someone in your life. Shared time doesn't mean shared values. If they belittle your dreams, ignore your boundaries, or disrupt your peace, then they've forfeited the right to stay in your inner circle. People will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And at this point in your life, you don't owe anyone continued access to your spirit. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. It's not selfish to remove yourself from negativity, it's survival. It's wisdom, it's maturity, because every moment you spend in a toxic space is a moment you could be spending in alignment, in joy, in clarity. You weren't put on this earth to carry other people's chaos. And you especially weren't meant to carry it into the last chapters of your life. Those chapters should be filled with laughter, purpose, softness, growth, not anxiety and tension. The hard truth is this: not everyone can go where you're going. Some people are only equipped for who you used to be, not who you're becoming, and if you want to protect what's next, you've got to be willing to release what's no longer working. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. You can love people and still decide that loving them from a distance is the healthiest option. You can forgive someone and still never allow them to disrupt your life again. You can let go with grace. But you must let go because your energy is sacred. At 70, every day becomes more valuable. You've earned the right to wake up in a space that feels calm. You've earned the right to spend time with people who uplift you, challenge you, respect you. People who pour into you the same way you pour into them. And if that circle is smaller than it used to be, that's okay. Quality matters more than quantity. Protecting your peace isn't about isolation. It's about intention. There is something deeply freeing about realizing you don't have to keep playing roles in people's lives that exhaust you. You can write a new script, one where you are supported, valued, seen, one where you don't shrink to fit into someone else's expectations. Because you've grown too much to keep living small, and peace, real peace, is the reward for that growth. It's time to clear the space, time to remove the noise, time to give yourself the gift of inner calm. Not everyone deserves access to you anymore, and that's not cruelty, that's clarity. Excuses are comforting. They're soft places to land when action feels hard, when fear whispers louder than faith, when doubt starts to sound like truth. But at 70, excuses are no longer an option. They're a trap. They dress themselves up in logic and reason, but their only goal is to keep you still, quiet, and small. And you didn't come this far to live a life that shrinks from what's possible. You came this far to rise into what's next. You've heard them all before. I'm too old. It's too late. I missed my chance. I don't have what it takes anymore. These phrases might sound reasonable, but they are nothing more than permission slips for hesitation. And hesitation is the enemy of impact. Excuses make failure feel safe because they give you something to blame. But safety isn't the goal, and more significance is, and you don't reach significance by waiting until everything is perfect. What excuses really do is mask fear. They give fear a voice that sounds rational, but deep down you know the truth. You know you've still got something in you that the world hasn't seen yet. You know there's a voice inside that still dreams, still plans, still imagines. You know there are things you've said you wanted to do for years, and maybe you've put them off because it wasn't the right time or life got in the way. But if not now, then when? The clock isn't your enemy. It's your motivator. Every second is a reminder that your time is valuable, not limited. You don't have time to waste on excuses, not anymore. You've seen too much to believe that comfort produces greatness. You've lived long enough to know that growth comes from discomfort, from risk, from choosing to move forward even when it would be easier to sit still. And it's not just about you anymore, it's about legacy. What you do now echoes beyond your own life. Someone younger is watching how you finish your race. They want to see if you're still running. They need to know that purpose doesn't fade with age, that passion doesn't have an expiration date. And you get to be the example, but you can't do that if you're letting excuses decide how you move. Excuses can't build. Excuses can't heal. Excuses can't love. Only action can do that. Only faith. Only boldness. And the good news is, you've got everything you need already inside you. You don't need permission. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't even need everyone to believe in you. You just need to stop waiting for conditions to be ideal and start moving with what you have. There is still time. That idea you've been holding on to, start it. That book you've wanted to write, write it. That relationship you've wanted to heal, reach out. That goal you thought had passed you by. Chase it, because regret is just the long-term cost of short-term excuses. And it's too expensive. You've lived through challenges that would have broken other people. You've navigated storms and still found your way to shore. That resilience didn't leave you. It matured, it grew stronger, and now it's time to use it. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Because when you stop giving excuses a seat at the table, purpose gets louder. Possibility gets clearer, and your life begins to reflect the truth you've always known deep down. You were made for more, no matter your age. There comes a time when you must confront the limits you've placed on your own life, not the ones others gave you, but the ones you quietly accepted. The ones that say, this is enough, when deep down something in you still aches for more. At 70, it's not about chasing fantasies or impressing the world. It's about refusing to settle for a life that feels too small for the size of your spirit. Small thinking must die so your legacy can live. You weren't created to survive quietly. You were made to shape something that outlives you, and legacy doesn't come from comfort. It comes from courage. From believing that even now, even with fewer years ahead than behind, you can still make a move that echoes far beyond your own lifetime. That's the difference between those who age and those who rise. One counts the years, the other multiplies them with meaning. Small thinking sounds wise on the surface. Be realistic. Play it safe. Don't aim too high. But those are just polite ways of saying, stay in your place. And that place, it's too tight, too predictable. Too ordinary for someone who has lived through as much as you have. By 70, you've earned the right to think bigger, not smaller. You've already paid the price in patience, sacrifice, endurance, and growth. Now is the time to cash in on boldness. You see, the danger of small thinking is that it slowly convinces you that dreams are no longer necessary, that stability is all there is, that the best you can do is protect what you have rather than build what's possible. But what if the boldest chapter of your life hasn't been written yet? What if the best idea, the most impactful conversation, the most significant contribution you'll ever make is still ahead of you? You're not too old to dream, you're too seasoned not to. You've seen what fear can do. You've seen how it silences voices, stunts progress, and steals opportunity. So why give it any more ground in your life? Small thinking is just fear wearing a mask. It tells you to keep your vision contained, your goals quiet, your steps cautious. But that's not legacy living. That's survival, and you weren't made just to survive. Legacy requires expansion, it requires vision, it requires you to lift your eyes from what is and ask what could be. It asks you to create something that your grandchildren's children will be proud of. And legacy isn't always built on stages or platforms. Sometimes it's built in quiet acts of bravery, starting the business you put off, telling the truth you've been afraid to share, showing up for a cause you believe in, or mentoring someone who needs your wisdom. It's never too late to think bigger. The only thing stopping you is the belief that your time has passed. But time isn't your enemy, it's your evidence, proof that you've endured, proof that you've learned. Proof that you've still got a fire inside you that hasn't gone out. Use that fire, use that voice, use that experience, not to play it safe, but to play it real, and play it big. There are people waiting to be inspired by your boldness. Waiting to see someone in their 70s step out, speak up, rise higher, not because they're trying to prove something, but because they finally realized they've got nothing left to lose and everything to give. Don't leave this world full. Leave it empty, poured out, used up, every gift given, every idea expressed. Because small thinking dies the moment you decide that your legacy matters more than your fear.